The chapter began with the Shadow Monarch glancing over his shoulder, even with the enemy standing directly in front of him. At the same moment, Jinwoo also turned his gaze. His eyes widened in shock at what he saw. Two enormous gates appeared, as large as the ones already floating in the sky above. One glowed a deep crimson red, the other an intense blue. Cracks split the surface of the blue gate, and soon it shattered open. From within surged a sea of flags and banners, noble crests waving in the air as demon-armored knights and soldiers charged forward. Jinwoo recognized every insignia on the fluttering flags: Ricardo, Pydos, Roken, Ingrass, and even Riduru, the clan to which Essel belonged. Moments later, the red gate cracked open as well. From within came an enormous wolf, a monstrous creature the size of a mountain. It charged forward, and with just one step of its massive paw, the ground beneath it cracked and trembled. Following close behind were countless animal-type magical beasts, all pouring out of the Crimson Gate in a chaotic stampede. Two factions had emerged, distinct and terrifying. One was composed of demon-armored knights, led by a powerful-looking demon radiating authority. The other was a feral horde of animal-type magical beasts, led by the towering giant wolf that had first charged through the gate. Both forces now stood before the Shadow Monarch, who simply stared at them, his dark gaze unwavering and unreadable. The scene shifted back to the double dungeon. Jongin barked out commands with urgency. "Healer, heal Hunter Myung-chul right now. Use everything you've got. Move the wounded to the rear." The healer nodded and reassured Myung-chul. "Almost done. Hang in there." But before they could catch their breath, something terrifying occurred. The massive statues, those Jinwoo had once defeated, rose again, as if they had never been harmed at all. Their cold, unblinking eyes glowed with power. Then, the architect spoke with a cruel grin on his face. "Whoever remains alive by the time all my puppets fall shall be given the great honor of witnessing the king's birth." Behind him stood the statue of God, towering, divine, and dreadful. Without warning, beams of light shot from the statue's eyes. Jongin's instincts kicked in. "Watch out," he shouted. The beams condensed into a massive laser that swept across the battlefield, exploding on contact and leaving devastation in its wake. Jongin managed to dodge just in time and immediately retaliated. A sharp spark appeared in his hand as he summoned a fireball, launching it toward the statue. The blast struck, shaking the air. "Now, take this chance to destroy the statues," Jongin yelled. Wu Jinchul didn't hesitate. He charged at full speed and delivered a powerful punch to one of the statues, aiming directly at its face. But when his fist landed, his expression changed. No damage, not even a scratch. "It's way sturdier than I expected," he thought. Suddenly, another large explosion erupted behind them, another of Jongin's attacks. He turned to the others. "They're highly resistant to physical attacks. Be careful." As the smoke cleared from the statue's face, Jongin's expression darkened. "No effect, even with powerful magic. Do they have resistance to spells too?" Elsewhere on the battlefield, the other members of the Hunters Guild were locked in combat against countless statue monsters. Fear and confusion were etched on their faces. "My taunt skill isn't working on any of them," Sun Ki-hoon shouted. "Even my basic psychokinetic spell has no effect. They're not moving at all," Gina added. Jongin overheard this, and his worry deepened. Do we really have no other options left? His gaze shifted to the distance. Jinwoo. His only hope now was to awaken Jinwoo. Is he hypnotized? Possessed? Whatever it is, this is the only way. Without hesitation, Jongin cast a fireball straight at Jinwoo, whispering in his mind, no matter what's happening to him, this is to wake him up. The fireball streaked through the air, heading directly toward Jinwoo. But just before impact, someone appeared in its path. The architect. With unnatural speed, he intercepted the fireball and swatted it away effortlessly. His eyes flared with fury as he rushed toward Jongin. How dare you disturb the king's slumber? As the architect closed the distance, several figures suddenly dashed to intercept him, members of the surveillance team. Wu Jinchul shouted, "We'll take care of things here. Heian, please wake up Sung Jinwoo." "Got it," Cha Heian responded, immediately speeding off toward Jinwoo. Her eyes locked on his unmoving form as she approached rapidly. The scene shifted once more, to the vision being shown to Jinwoo by the architect. He watched as the armies of demon clans and magical beasts clashed against the Shadow Army in an all-out war. The battlefield roared with chaos and death. But no matter how many times the Shadow soldiers were destroyed, they regenerated endlessly. Jinwoo observed in awe. If they were my summons, I would have run out of mana a long time ago. The Monarch. He must have a bottomless pit of mana. He watched as one of the shadow monsters was torn apart by a powerful, animal-type beast. The war raged on. More and more demon warriors and beasts poured out from the two gates, mercilessly slaughtering the shadow soldiers. There was no infighting. They were united in their purpose. This wasn't a war between rival factions. It was a war between monsters and silver soldiers. Was the Shadow Monarch not on the same side as the monsters? Or was there internal conflict among the monarchs? Jinwoo wondered. Jinwoo noticed the Shadow Monarch's black horse in the distance, its body pierced by both a spear and a sword. The battlefield was a sea of blood and corpses. The flame of war had consumed all. At last, only a few figures remained. The Shadow Monarch stood before a lone demon, slumped against a jagged rock, catching its breath. Though the demon's face was obscured by a helmet, the monarch recognized him. "We could have ended the war today," the monarch said. "Why did you betray me?" The demon slowly looked up. Gravely wounded, it was barely clinging to life. "What could have been?" it muttered. "We could have exterminated all of you." But the monarch's voice grew colder. "I asked why you betrayed me." The demon laughed faintly, then replied in an ancient language Jinwoo couldn't understand. The monarch's eyes narrowed. He reached out and gripped the demon by its neck, lifting him off the ground. The demon choked and gurgled in pain. The metal plating on his neck bent and crumpled under the monarch's crushing grip, but even in his final moments, the demon continued speaking, still in that unknown tongue. Then, with a final squeeze, the Shadow Monarch crushed the demon's neck. Blood spilled from the demon's mouth, and its body went limp. The monarch's thumb dug deeper into its flesh as he released the corpse. Suddenly, Jinwoo felt something strange. Observing the demon's gaze, his heart began to pound violently. A strange familiarity overcame him. Where have I seen those eyes before? He wondered, as the sound of his heartbeat echoed loudly in his ears. The Shadow Monarch then released the demon's lifeless body, letting it collapse to the ground with a heavy thud. Jinwoo trembled. He could barely comprehend what he was witnessing. His heartbeat continued to accelerate as he reached out with shaking hands and removed the demon's helmet. The cold metal clattered onto the ground. Beneath it was a face. It was Baron, the Demon King. The very same face Jinwoo had once seen atop the demon castle. Recognition crashed over him. But before he could react, another shocking revelation struck. His body, his hands, his feet, his chest was encased in black armor. Jinwoo wondered, realizing with a jolt that he was no longer just watching. He was already in the Shadow Monarch's body, observing through his eyes. Then, something even stranger occurred. A rhythmic pulse, steady, but not from the left side of his chest. Instead, Jinwoo felt a faint, glowing heartbeat on the right, one that radiated with a strange purple hue. Instinctively, he placed a hand over his chest, trying to calm the erratic thudding within. But instead of moving to the left, his hand shifted to the right, where a second heartbeat pulsed beneath the armor. Two hearts, beating in perfect unison. Before he could even begin to process the magnitude of these revelations, something else pulled at his attention, something far more ominous. From above, massive shadows began to descend. Jinwoo looked up slowly. Falling toward him were 4 angels, each one bearing 6 radiant wings. Their divine presence was overwhelming, both awe-inspiring and terrifying in equal measure. They loomed in the sky like executioners of fate. And then, everything vanished. Darkness engulfed Jinwoo once more as the vision came to an abrupt end. The chapter concluded with a single notification ringing out from the system. The playback of retrieved data has ended. The chapter opens with Hunter Heian standing face-to-face with the architect. With a sly smile, the architect comments, "You're quite amusing indeed," and taunts her to try a bit harder to break free from my design. He questions whether she doesn't even want to try. Despite his words, Heian says nothing. Instead, she activates her skill sword dance, her eyes blazing with fury as a golden aura engulfs her entire body. Upon seeing her power, the architect grins and says, "There you go." Just like that, before laughing. All of Heian's attacks are parried effortlessly by the architect using his sword. With a single powerful slash, he wounds her shoulder, causing her to scream in pain and stagger back. The architect then points his sword at them mockingly and laughs. "Is this really all you can do? Everything is proceeding exactly according to my design. How boring you humans are," he sneers. He explains that the system he created can predict and respond to every possible outcome. Watching helplessly, Hunter Jong-in and Wu Jinshul look on with fear and concern etched on their faces. The architect continues, "There's no way you can defeat my creation with such feeble attempts. But perhaps this is the best you can do." Around them, the other hunters struggle as they're overwhelmed by the relentless attacks of the statues. Some try to heal their wounded comrades, but the situation grows more dire as more beast-like statues attack. Suddenly, a fireball hits the architect's face, but to no avail. He's completely unscathed and still smiling. The attack came from Jong-in, who stands firmly and says, "We need to wake up Sung Jinwoo. He's the only way." In a desperate move, the wounded Heian dashes toward Jinwoo, coordinating her movement with Jong-in's attack. But the architect moves swiftly and intercepts her. Just in time, Heian manages to dodge his attack, which crashes into the ground and causes a chain of massive explosions, leaving the ground cracked and scorched. Despite her injury, she presses on toward Jinwoo. The architect, now mildly impressed, says, "Not bad," after seeing Heian evade his strike. But then his eyes widen in shock. A shadow emerges from Heian's body. He exclaims that the rules of this room do not allow such entities to manifest. And yet, undeniably, it is a shadow. Did the king really plant a soldier inside her? The architect mutters, stunned. He demands to know how they found this place and what her relationship with Jinwoo is. With a resolute expression and her hand clutching her wounded shoulder, Heian replies, "We're his friends. We're here to rescue him." The architect ponders aloud. Perhaps this wasn't the king's doing after all. Then he offers her a rare opportunity. "Very well. One of the great monarchs is about to descend upon this world. I'll let you witness this glorious event." Behind him, a purple aura begins emanating from Jinwoo's body. However, the architect adds menacingly, "But your little human friends, they shall die here, now." The other hunters are shown being surrounded by massive, powerful statues. Suddenly, a voice interrupts, "Not on my watch." The architect turns in shock, and from the side, Jinwoo appears, delivering a devastating punch straight to the architect's face, cracking his stone visage. The architect screams in pain, his stone face crumbling. Jinwoo coldly asks, "What did you do to my body?" A glowing purple heart pulses in his chest. He readies another strike. The other hunters are shocked and filled with hope. Jinwoo is awake. Without hesitation, Jinwoo slams his foot into the architect's face, sending him crashing to the ground. Fear now visible on the architect's face, he mutters. It seems he's not the king. Confused and frightened, he questions why he is here instead and how he can maintain consciousness with that black heart. Jinwoo, noticing the heart-shaped purple glow in his chest, thinks, "So this insane amount of mana, it's because of this heart." Suddenly, a system notification appears before him. He has earned the title Demon Hunter, having met the requirements after defeating Baron, the monarch of White Flames. The system states that an incredible power has acknowledged the player as its master. He also sees the effect of the Black Heart, plus 100,000 mana. Jinwoo begins to deduce. The Black Heart wasn't part of the architect's grand design. It was never intended to make him stronger. He also realizes that the retrieved system data didn't give him all the answers. He still doesn't know the full story. He demands answers from the architect. "You told me before you were against choosing me as a player. So what exactly is a player? And what were you planning to do with me?" The architect's eyes widen in terror. "Could it be?" he mutters. Then he screams in rage. "Monarch of Shadows, how could you do this to us? Do you think the other monarchs will just let you get away with this?" Jinwoo summons 4 daggers, all pointed at the architect's face. Calmly but firmly, he says, "Then answer my questions." Though clearly afraid, The architect laughs and admits Jinwoo is truly unpredictable. Now he understands why the system chose him. Meanwhile, the other hunters notice something terrifying. The previously motionless statues are beginning to move. The architect laughs maniacally and warns that if he dies, no one will be able to stop his puppets. He challenges Jinwoo, asking if he really thinks he can kill him. Jinwoo, blood in his eyes, responds seriously. What if I kill you first, then deal with your puppets after? The architect starts to speak. I'm the architect of the system. If you kill me, then, but Jinwoo cuts him off with a cold smile. I'd return to being an E-rank hunter? Jinwoo explains that he already considered this. But a system doesn't collapse just because its creator disappears, does it? He continues, in that case, I'll take it by force. Suddenly, countless system notifications flood the screen. The architect's face fills with dread. A final message appears before him. The system has denied the administrator's access. Shocked, the architect asks aloud, what's happening? As he watches his access being revoked. Jinwoo stands firm. Flashbacks reveal how he realized that the system needed him as much as he needed it. If he was meant to be someone's avatar, then he would use the system in ways they never intended. With a chilling gaze, Jinwoo makes his decision. He would devour the system itself. He says to the architect, seems your design wasn't so perfect after all. With one final desperate cry, the architect yells, how dare you, you bastard! Just then, Jinwoo's daggers fly forward, slicing the architect's body into pieces. As his crumbling face begins to disintegrate, he mutters his final words. A prediction? No, a prophecy. When the pillars of fire holding the heavens are raised, an inevitable death shall approach you. With a trembling finger, he points at Jinwoo before his body crumbles to dust. Jinwoo merely looks at him coldly and replies, as you please. Before we wrap up this arc, if you enjoyed the video, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Thank you. The chapter begins just outside the double dungeon, where the dungeon gate stands ominously before a gathering of hunters and agents from the Hunter Association. Tension hangs thick in the air as they wait in uncertainty. A male hunter remarks that it's been over an hour since the Hunters Guild entered the dungeon, questioning why it's taking them so long. A female hunter adds with a hint of sarcasm that if it had been their own guild who went in, they would have been totally wiped out. Suddenly, faint silhouettes emerge from the dungeon. It's the Hunters Guild and the surveillance team. They're bloodied, exhausted, and barely able to walk. Among them is Jong-in, being supported by Haein. Shock and fear ripple through the waiting hunters as they take in the sight. These are elite hunters, yet they look completely beaten down. One mutters in disbelief. What in the world happened inside a C-rank gate? Jinchul quickly approaches the members of the Courage Guild, asking for their help in transporting the wounded. The hunters, visibly stunned, agree without hesitation. Moments later, Jinwoo exits the gate. His clothes are torn, his body bruised. In his mind, he reflects that while he found some answers, the real architect is likely elsewhere. He wishes he could have stayed longer. Perhaps the architect would have revealed more. Jinchul walks up to Jinwoo and informs him that 20 of the highest-ranking hunters have died in this raid. He adds that if this had turned into a dungeon break, the damage would have been unimaginable. He then asks Jinwoo if he tried to clear the dungeon alone. Jinwoo replies that he reported the double dungeon to the Courage Guild, but didn't think anyone would actually come to help. He blames himself for the hunters' deaths, saying he survived only thanks to the Hunters Guild and the surveillance team. Jinchul reassures him that the surveillance team is always alerted when an S-rank hunter takes action, and the decision to involve the Hunters Guild was his own. Still, the outcome was undeniably tragic. He then asks Jinwoo how he knew there was a double dungeon. Jinwoo calmly replies, "The dungeon called to me." Shocked, Jinchul presses him for details. Jinwoo says he received a message, but only in his head, invisible to anyone else. Jinchul studies him, realizing Jinwoo isn't lying. He thinks to himself that Jinwoo is beyond his understanding. As Jinwoo begins to leave, Haein approaches and asks if he's okay. Jinwoo responds with a faint smile, "Yeah, of course I'm," but suddenly wobbles, saying, "No, maybe I'm a bit tired," before collapsing to the ground unconscious. Meanwhile, in Japan, several trucks filled with mana crystals arrive, 200,000 tons, as requested by Yuri Orlov, who plans to use them to suppress an S-rank gate. Seeing the volume, Yuri comments that it's more than enough for the magic circle he's constructing. Once the barrier is built, it will begin drawing mana from the crystals and become self-sustaining. But how strange, he mutters. An agent beside him asks if something's wrong. Yuri brushes it off, saying the barrier is perfect, but he senses something nearby. The agent wonders if it's just someone foolish enough to be on the streets with a dungeon break looming. Yuri, looking up at a nearby building, replies, "I never said it was a person." A mysterious man stands atop the building, observing below. Noting the hunter's sharp senses, he muses that it's not surprising, given the source of his power. Then he whispers, "Regardless, it finally begins." Everything is going according to plan, to the predetermined tragedy, as he looks at the massive S-rank gate before him. Soldiers, tanks, and members of the Blade Guild are stationed around the gate, ready for the worst. Tawada, a Blade Guild hunter, comments that modern weapons are ineffective against beasts, questioning the point of mobilizing an army. Reiji responds that if Yuri Orlov's strategy fails, someone needs to buy time for the frontline hunters to prepare. Tawada cynically notes that they're essentially human shields. Reiji adds, "As long as we're stationed here on the front lines, we hunters are no different," gazing solemnly at the dark S-rank gate. It just goes to show how helpless humans are in the face of pure destruction. Yuri, walking with another agent, exclaims with pride that if all goes well, he alone can take care of the gate. He dreams of being remembered as the man who single-handedly brought down an S-rank gate, but humbly adds that someone else might deserve that title more. The agent warns him about his drinking, but Yuri dismisses the concern, saying it calms his nerves. He lifts a bottle, smiling. "I'm about to put on the greatest show they've ever seen." This calls for a toast. After a drink, he asks how many S-rank hunters are on standby. The agent replies, 15 in total. Yuri scoffs, "Quite a small audience, eh?" He then asks what the Americans are doing and whether they've sent any hunters to Japan. The agent reveals that an S-rank gate has appeared in Maryland, and more gates have spawned across the UK, India, and several other countries. Realizing this, Yuri notes that nations all over the world are suffering from a shortage of capable hunters. Suddenly, the gate before them begins to tremble. The agent's face turns pale in horror. The gate shatters, releasing an immense burst of energy. Suddenly, the scene shifts to Jinwoo awakens in a hospital room after collapsing. Jinho rushes in, tears in his eyes, overwhelmed with relief that Jinwoo is finally awake. He tells Jinwoo that he's been asleep for 3 days. Jinwoo is shocked. He wonders if his fatigue had truly built up that much, though he admits he hasn't taken a break in a long time. Still, the war shown to him by the architect keeps playing in his mind. Then it hits him. If he's been unconscious for 3 days, that means... He urgently asks Jinho for an update. Jinho is confused and asks what kind of update. Jinwoo clarifies. "The S-rank gate in Japan, what happened?" Jinho looks down, somber, and replies with just one word. "Well, back in Japan, the S-rank gate opens." Panic and dread fill the area as a massive foot stomps out of the gate, creating a thunderous explosion. Beasts begin pouring out, giants, and not just one, but many. Each carries weapons and emits an overwhelming aura. The hunter's eyes widen in disbelief. Giants usually only appear as bosses in the most difficult A-rank gates. Yuri Orlov steps forward confidently. "This will be easy peasy," he says, channeling green energy from his hand and directing it toward the gate. He challenges the giant. "Come at me." The mana crystals surge, fueling Yuri's magic circle and forming a powerful barrier around the gate. A giant strikes the barrier with a massive sword, but it holds firm. Yuri laughs smugly, mocking the beasts. "These pipsqueaks think they can break my barrier? These are the kind of monsters you'd find in a mere A-rank gate." Suddenly, a massive hand grabs the attacking giant, slamming it aside with ease. A much larger giant steps out of the gate, 3 times the size of the first. Yuri's face turns from arrogance to pure terror. The new giant swings its colossal blade, slicing through Yuri's barrier like it was paper. And thus ends the double dungeon arc. The next arc, titled The Japan Crisis Arc, wherein when a catastrophic S-rank gate opens in Tokyo and the Japanese government's elite strike force fails to contain the threat, Sung Jinwoo steps forward, determined to face the looming disaster himself.